Welcome to Wordplay, the podcast where metaphors spiral, sayings unravel, and two pals try and make sense of it all. I'm George.
And I'm Rach, and each week we pick a well-known saying, such as when pigs fly, or the cat's out the bag.
And then we run absolutely wild with it.
Sometimes it's deep, sometimes it's chaos, usually both. This is Wordplay. Let's get into it. Wordplay, playing with words that to play when we say them and play with them. Here is some synth keyboard that I'm doing with my mouth because I couldn't be bothered to get my keyboard from under all the junk in my second bathroom. Bathroom where there's a keyboard. That was more trumping. Okay, on to the episode. We can start in the middle of a sentence.
We can totally start in the middle of a sentence. There are no rules because this is ours and we can do whatever we want.
This is like when we had the idea for it and you kept starting to talk and I'd be like, no, save it for the pod. We don't want to use up all of the good thoughts before we are recording.
Yeah, because literally all of the ideas that we were talking about, my brain would just go off on a million tangents and have a million things to say. So, God,
that's when we knew it was worth talking about. That's when we were like, this is a great idea.
Yeah, basically, if we can talk without even thinking about it, then it must be good. I mean, that's the theory.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
so where are we going to start?
Well, we need to figure out what topic we want to start with.
Yeah, so we have a list. We made like a preliminary list of statements to choose from that they're all things that I just want to start talking about immediately. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
Right? And I figured we'd just go with whatever we are drawn to, and if we're drawn to all of them, well, we got to start somewhere, and we'll just have to have a million conversations.
My version of a neurodivergent brain wants to start at the beginning and work all the way through, but I have a feeling that your brain is going to do a very different thing.
Oh, that is so interesting. Well. My visceral reaction to that suggestion was like, what? Start at the beginning and be methodical. But then also what's interesting about this is you've made me realise that when I copied and pasted this list to my phone, there was one which is you don't have to be mad to work here, but it helps, that was right at the top, that because I was like, oh, I don't fancy that one today, I moved it to the bottom of the list. So
there we go. You might think you're different, but actually no.
And actually the first one on there was like the origin story of us doing this. It was that was the idea that we started with, so maybe we just go with that.
I think we should involve people in the origin story. I think that's very sweet and welcoming and, vulnerable.
Oh,
there you go. Okay, so which is the first one on the list?
The early bird catches the worm.
The early bird catches the worm. Bloody hell. Do I have a bone to pick with this one?
Whoa, that's a whole other one, right? Layers.
Oh my God. Okay, tell me what your first thought is when you hear that, because mine is just dread.
Well, when I first hear it, I can't get away from the discussion we had that was the origin story of the podcast, which is I'd just seen, it's probably TikTok. I don't have TikTok, but Mr. Rachel collects videos over the day to show me in the evening. Cute. And it was that person that was like, the early bird catches the worm, but why is nobody talking about how the early worm is the worm that gets caught? And so now I'm like layers to that, and then now I'm like it takes me straight to why are we applying one rule for everyone when some people are worms, some people are birds, some people are early, so that many things to that question, to that
and
comment.
what time do worms even wake up, and how do they sleep? Do they sleep? I've never seen a sleeping worm.
I don't know how I would know if it was asleep.
I mean, my immediate reaction is lack of movement, but lack of movement could also mean death.
Oh, I've just remembered something that I've just had such a guilt pang. I can't believe you just oh my god, unearthed this for me. That was a
What?
pun not intended, but hey
What's
ho.
just happened?
This is wordplay. When I was like 5, 6, I used to, you know the whole thing about if you cut a worm in half, you get 2 worms,
Oh God. Yeah.
which I don't think is actually true, right? I think like they wriggle off, but they die. I used to do that, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't. I think I knew that they died, but I just think I enjoyed the satisfaction of it.
The satisfaction of what? The idea that they might be 2 worms now.
I think so, but then why did the death not bother me? Because I'd say generally I've got quite a strong moral conscience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that I'm too much better because when I was little, we had chickens all the time. And if I found a worm, my immediate thought was, yes, a snack for my friends.
Right? Because
So,
there's a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy of well, and that's part of this saying though, isn't it? Because you're prioritizing being the early bird that catches the worm. Nobody's giving a shit about the worm.
well, or they are, but only for their own gain.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Interesting.
there's a bit of tension,
Well,
but
and
also like there are a limit. They're not a limited amount of worms. Worms are like one of the most abundant. Are they though? Wait, hang on a second. I was about to say worms are the most abundant thing on the planet, but A, number one, that's an exaggeration. A, number one. And B, number two, I actually think I saw something about a decline in earthworms, so I might have
did
to,
you?
yeah, yeah, take that back and go
Well,
away, do more research.
and this brings us to a dilemma we'll have on the pod, which is do we fact check live or do we just enjoy the process and then maybe think about it later? I've written down the question: are worms abundant?
Okay. Oh no, I have the answer to this not the worms question, but the do we fact check live question, and that is part of the origin story because we discussed this, and what we can do is have editor George and editor Rach
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
fact check for us, and then do the weird creepy voiceover cut thing that so many people do so effectively well.
Yeah. You're right. We did discuss that, so we can cover both worlds without fear of getting lost down the internet wormhole when it's actually just quite fun to like chat and see what happens, you know?
I mean, exactly. Yes, no, because we have enough tangents in our brains anyway. Well, let alone bringing Google into the mix. Bloody hell.
So we'll check on the abundance of worms and whether they are in decline. Um, but that's just reminded me, for reasons I have no idea, that the other thing I actually think the moment where we were like, let's make a podcast was when we'd gone down the route of early bird catches the worm, but what about the early worm that gets caught? And then we were discussing what that means for like, oh, I can't remember, but I said worms come out when it rains, right? Because they can't
Yeah.
breathe underground because they get like waterlogged, which is true facts. And I know that for sure because I used to be an infant school teacher and there were worms in the garden. And I was like, oh, let's teach the kids about worms while we're looking at worms. And so I had the iPad out, just fact checking myself. And I was like, oh, that's because they were like, why do worms come out when it rains? Well, they breathe through their skin. So I feel like we had a little epiphany about that I've lost
Yeah,
my
we
train of
did.
thought on now.
Yeah, we did. I can catch that train and put it back on the tracks for you, honey. No
Woo, choo
problem.
choo, baby.
I swear, if you say things like that, you're going to throw me off as well. But basically, it was that actually the best bird of all is the bird that waits until the rains come. It doesn't need to wake up early.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, which is so
This,
applicable to life in general, I
yeah,
feel.
because this bird ain't waiting for, or like this bird ain't following a generic rule about how it should be up at the same day, at the same time every day early to make
Yeah,
the most of the day. It's
yeah,
going, how about I conserve my energy and I'll pop up and out at the opportune time.
Right. But where does the fact that birds, through evolution, I guess, have to be active in the daytime because they don't have, apart from owls, obviously, love
Mm,
owls, nighttime queens, but
big up the owl.
most, yeah, this is now a promotional podcast for owls. Um,
This pod is brought to you by the barn owl.
oh my God, what about tawnies? Come on.
I did go to Bird World a few weeks ago, and obviously they had all the birds, but owls. We went to an owl talk, and I'd love to relay some facts, but I didn't retain any of them. But I enjoyed being there.
Were they awake in the day?
Yeah. Oh, actually, they were kind of scary. They had the ones that they look like they're wearing balaclavas, kind of.
Oh yeah.
Um, It felt like they were staring into my soul. It was quite intimidating. But yeah, some of them, not all of them, but some of them were awake, which is curious.
Okay,
Though
well
they're in
that,
captivity, aren't they? So maybe they've lost some of their natural
yeah,
ways of being.
maybe. But to bring it back round, yeah. So what happens to the fact that actually you can't always wait for the rains because sometimes the rains are at night time and you're not evolved to go out at night time?
Well, that is a very interesting dilemma because do you go out at night time to capture the rains, but then risk being eaten slash throwing off your sleep schedule?
Oh God, and sleep, as we know, is one of the most important things for the human brain. Not that any of this is about humans, obviously, but
You know what I'm so curious about is like there's a obviously a metaphorical thread that we're following, but in my mind I have a sort of like loose idea of how it applies to life stuff, but I don't know if any of that translates to the listener, but I'm also not bothered at this point of over engineering it, so I'm just gonna go with the flow and see what happens.
I mean, yeah, absolutely, for sure. But wait, how do you think that it relates? What is your opinion? How does it relate to life as a human in society?
Well, that's a great question, and one that I am fearful to answer because I don't have a fully formed thought, but the whole point is that one forms one's thoughts when one verbalizes them. So,
Go on.
I think I think it's about productivity, right? Which is part of what people use this saying for. It's like, oh, the early
Sure.
bird catches the worm. Like if you're up,
Yeah,
you're out there. If you're there before everybody else,
yeah. Proactivity.
um, yeah. But then I feel like it raises questions of like, what if you are somebody that doesn't like naturally like what if you're not a morning person, for example? If everybody's telling you that early bird catches the worm and you're not a morning person,
Yeah.
what are you supposed to do? Just feel like, well, I'm a trash person. I ain't
Right?
catching any worms, right? How's that going to be?
Yeah.
Um, I'll leave it there as a starting level.
Okay, yeah. No, 100%. 100%. Because it's the whole 5 a.m. club thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
God, what a mess. What a mess. Because why, just because you're getting up at 5 a.m., are those, extra 3-4 hours at the beginning of the working day apparently way more productive than the rest of your day? Like, I get it from a
Mm-hmm.
concept that, okay, if you front load your day with all of the quote unquote productive things to help you become quote unquote more successful, whatever that means, who
Uh-huh.
bloody knows at this point, then you're going to tire yourself out more. And so you're not going to be doom scrolling from 10 till 12 because you'll be so exhausted by 10 p.m., right?
Yeah.
So that is the only way that I can see that getting up at 5 a.m. would be beneficial. Maybe there are other things like sunlight, being in the sunlight hours, whatever it is, but everyone has their own circadian rhythms, right?
Yeah. And I think I mean, I've definitely tried in my former years, before I am as evolved as I am today, I've definitely tried 5 a.m. club and 6 a.m. club. And I'd do it for like a week or maybe two, probably a week and a half. And then I couldn't sustain it. And then I'd feel bad about myself.
Mm.
But for various reasons, that didn't work. And one of them being that, like, it's also just not in human nature to be able to do something like that all of the time. We get tired,
Yeah.
you know? And even like I don't know, I think it adds an element of pressure of making the most of like an optimum time. And then nobody goes, the early bird catches the worm, but don't forget that will probably mean that that the bird should take a nap in the afternoon because it's tired from getting up so early. And you think you just got to be flying around all day.
Yeah. Yeah. And like there's like a point that has to give. Like there's a sacrifice that has to be made somewhere along the line. Especially as a woman, because women scientifically need more sleep than men. So
When you sent me this I think you sent me some information about this, and I
yeah.
was like, my mind is blown. But yes, continue.
Yeah, no. I mean, my mind was blown, but it also was very reassuring, and I felt, oh yeah, yeah. I forget sometimes that our entire medical system is built on the back of research done upon men, and I should really go easier on myself for that
Right?
reason alone, right? Um, but yeah,
The early bird catches the worm unless the bird is premenstrual or menstruating, and then the early bird is like, go fuck yourself. That's my personal
yeah.
experience.
I mean, but seriously, if we need 9 to 10 hours sleep and we're getting up at 5, what? That means going to bed between 7 and 8 p.m. So,
Yeah.
okay, so if you want to be successful in life, you want to be the early bird that's catching all the worms, you want to get all of the worms, whatever the worms are for you, then you cannot have any kind of social life. Because let's be honest, who is tied into some kind of work that isn't occasionally, if not consistently, working until 6 p.m.?
Yeah. Like, where are you fitting your life in that?
Right,
Yeah.
right. If you're catching worms, then you are not doing other activities that are not worm catching. Maybe you're not even building a family so that you can have somewhere to put the worms in this bird metaphor, obviously.
Right? Also, here's maybe a different angle, right? Because there's the early bird catches the worm, as in kind of get up as early as possible, seize the day. But then there's early bird catches the worm in that, like, be the first person to do something. I feel like you'll have a good opinion on this as a marketer. Like, you need to be ahead of or quicker than anyone else to whatever it is that you're doing. Because otherwise, by the time you get to it, there
Ooh,
won't be any worms left for you. Discuss.
bloody hell. Okay, well, first of all, we've already established the surplus of worms, despite well, I mean, our listeners already know whether it was confirmed or not confirmed that there's been a threat on the lives of earthworms. But there is
What
a surplus
discrimination.
of worms, right?
I
And
really want to check. And I know we're not checking, but I really want to check. This is me fighting my impulse.
what? What do you want to check? Oh, the
If
earthworms. No,
there's a surplus of worms.
we already know. We already know, but
Oh, we
we
know.
just don't.
Yes.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah,
know because we
yeah.
haven't put it in. Oh, yes. Continue. Please continue. We already know the worm situation.
So, if there are a surplus of worms, why do you need to be the first one? Also, if you're the first one, you are risking your life not knowing what the danger is out there. There could be a fox waiting right there, ready to get you. And if you're the
Hmm.
first person to go and get this worm, you are at the most danger because you don't know what the risks are involved that day. So if
Mm-hmm.
you let somebody else go and get the first worm, then you can suss out the situation from afar. And you bring up marketing, right? And this is something that you see all the time. The first person to launch a new idea isn't necessarily the person that's going to do it the best. But once it's out there, then somebody that could do it the best can go ahead and try, knowing what worked and what didn't.
Right. So the first work in that example, really, the early bird might catch the worm, but it might be a shit worm. Like they might, or they might not do it in a way in a sustainable way or the best way, but other birds on looking, like other people looking on, can take that experience and amalgamate it into their own plan.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%, and like take into account any risks that are out there, like a sneaky little fox or
Right.
a chicken.
Yeah.
I
Or
mean, the chicken is a bird, so that doesn't really work. I take it back. I take the chicken back.
well, actually, no. The oh no, I was going to say you, but I'm that you were taking the worms, weren't you? I'm mixing my worms and my birds, really. Hey ho, whatever is it? The fox is risky for the bird.
So,
Yeah.
so what are we saying? Is there any validation that it's good to be an early bird?
If you,
Is it okay?
huh?
Two questions.
Go on.
Two questions that nearly formed into one, and then I realized that was too much for me. One, is there any validation that it's good to be an early bird? Full stop. Like for any reason, worm or non-worm related. Two, is there any validation that the early bird does in fact get the worm? Three, is the worm worth it?
Whoa. Okay. So I'm writing these down because I wanna capture them. That quick. And is the worm worth it? Right. Okay. Damn. Well, I would say on the first question, which was, is it good to be an early bird? Yes, if your natural inclination is to be an early bird, I would say. Well, if we're talking about like productivity standards and schedules and routines, I suppose we're kind of talking about two things here. Which one do we want to commit to?
Well, I feel that is tricky because productivity is a inherently messed up concept, isn't it? Because what are you counting as productivity? And who is that defined by? Is it actually defined by you, or is it defined by the society, or is it defined by capitalism? Like what's going on here?
Well, that's a whole massive topic in itself. Is that beyond a worm?
50 days later, we are still talking about the bloody birds and their worms.
Now I'm fighting the urge to Google early bird catches the worm to see if there's a generally accepted like definition that will sway us on which one we should commit to. Not commit, but as in like I feel like it gets complicated if we're trying to answer those questions interpreting two different interpretations.
Well, yeah, and there are too many ways that it could go. I think why don't we take some pressure off of editor George and editor Rachel and find out what the definition is now, and then we can work from that and shun that instead, or accept it open armedly. That's not a word. With open arms.
I like open-armedly. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, so the consensus tends to be the early bird gets the worm is a proverb which emphasizes the importance of starting something early to maximize potential outcome, which would kind of apply to productivity, but generally it's about like the person who takes the earliest opportunity or takes advantage immediately before other people do will gain advantage over others. Which is interesting because Go on.
Well, I was going to say, which we know is inherently not necessarily true.
Well, what I find interesting about that, and I'm glad that we covered both, is that because we were just talking about that interpretation, but we started with the productivity one because I feel like generally day to day, how people apply that saying is like, early bird catches the worm. Like if I was up early doing something in the day, someone would be like, well, the early bird catches the worm. But it sounds like,
100%.
yeah. So, I mean, and this is the whole point of us making meaning from this is a saying is as good as people's interpretation of it, right? Kind of doesn't matter. The definition doesn't matter if people are interpreting it in a interpreting it in a different way.
Yeah. My God, that is so true. That is so true. Ah.
Okay, if we're going to take the definition of it as basically the first person to do something, take action on something, has the advantage over others, is it good? Is it good to be an early bird?
I mean, well, okay, so statistics might prove me wrong on this, but from my experience, I just don't believe it, because I feel like there's always going to be somebody with more money, better resources, more energy, more time that will come along, see what you're doing, and say, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that." And from my experiences, the copyright and whatever else laws are not protecting people's IP well enough to be able to say that if you did it first, that it's yours entirely. It's like in the fashion world, you have all of these incredible designers that are creating beautiful, beautiful garments. But unless you're a big name, then the Sheins of the world come along and reproduce it for a fraction of the price, like 1% of the price, and will ship it all over the world. And, artists are constantly having to battle to take down reproductions that are almost identical of the work that they've spent years making.
Right. So really what I'm hearing from that is the early bird doesn't catch the worm. The most powerful and money resourced bird catches the worm.
Yeah, and how do those birds become well resourced to begin with? They're probably
Well,
more patient and they think about the structure, right? Or they're more evil birds.
yeah, more evil. Well, maybe. Well, some definitely more evil, but I also don't. I'm trying not to always equate money and power with being evil because
Oh, yeah, so true, so true.
do you know what I mean? Like this is
Yes,
for the money
Rachel,
mindset.
I needed that reminder.
For those of us out there working on our money mindset, we tend to associate
Yeah,
money with yeah, being a dick. Um,
which is so
but it's
not.
an interesting, yeah, it's an interesting point, and I don't know where my next thought's gone. Can you
Well,
catch a
I'll
thought
tell
of
you where
mine?
my
If I
thoughts are going.
please do, yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure I can catch one of yours without knowing any of the context, but I wouldn't put it past us, to be
I
honest.
was hoping you would
Even not
just
on a call,
telepathically know.
apparently. But yeah, so my thoughts were going in the direction of, okay, well, we need to assign different birds to different levels of like resource, right?
This is the level of detail that I knew you would deliver on. Absolutely. Tell me more.
Oh my God. Well, okay, so I started by trying to like think, oh, well, some birds are more predatory in nature. All of the birds of prey, which I'm sure that you got lots of views on at Bird World. And then some are like more chill. They're focusing on like reproducing loads and loads and loads. Some are actually eating the worms, and some eat the birds that are the worm catchers.
Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, I just love the fact that because my window's open, I can hear so many birds chirping right now, and I
know,
swear...
I can hear them too!
Can you hear them? I swear...
Yeah.
Oh, I hope you can't hear... Can you hear traffic as well?
I know, I
Anyway.
can just hear birds, and it's the most surreal thing when having this conversation.
I don't know if I didn't notice them until now, or if they've only just started chirping. I feel like it was a chorus in celebration of what you were just saying.
Oh, cute. Thank you, birds.
Yeah, I love this because it's like, it's part of, I think, illustrating that different... We're not all the same, right? The birds are not all the same. They're going after different worms.
Oh,
Sometimes they're going after other
yeah.
birds. They are different... You know, some birds... I don't know this because I went to Birdworld recently. Some birds do their own thing. I can't tell you which species, but some do their own thing, right? And they're solo. Some of them, like, mate for life and they come in little social pairs. And so there's different ways they are. They'll have different worm requirements.
Oh, that's very sweet. Very sweet. Yeah, and I mean in life you do have the companies that will you know, prey on is a bit harsh, but basically eat up the people that are doing all of the worm catching because they're going to be more nutritious, probably, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, if Bird World should be sponsoring this episode, let's be honest.
I'll contact them. Oh, I really want to play you. I don't know if it'll take me too long to find it, but there was this bird that we saw there that was just amazing. And I think it was a bit of a coincidence, but we walked around the corner and we went, wow. And then I think I showed you the video, did I? It replied being like, wow, wow. And it just kept making that noise. Anywhere in the park, you could hear it like,
Yeah,
going,
you did send me
wow,
that video.
wow. And I'm like, oh, birds, man.
Oh my God. So cute.
Well,
Okay, so we've formed a nice little kind of comparison here, I think, along the, you know, structure of society versus the structure of bird society, and how maybe this metaphor actually is about a specific section of the bird or human society, and that it might not be applicable to everyone, depending on your circadian rhythms and interpretation of the statement.
exactly. And I really want to ask us, and maybe we could do this at the end of every episode, to rewrite our version of this now. I don't know if I can do a very good job off the cuff, but I can give it a go. Do you have an idea
Yeah,
of what
go for it.
what you do instead?
What, instead of early bird catches the worm?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the early garden bird that is not a lover of sunflower seeds and actually is a little bit carnivorous, who is part of the dawn chorus rather than the dusk chorus, will occasionally be able to provide more for his family as long as he doesn't get caught by either land predators such as the fox or its fellow birds such as a peregrine falcon.
Perfect. This
It's
is
a
what I
bit
was hoping for.
long-winded, though.
No, I knew that mine was going to be long, so I'm happy with that. I don't even know what mine's going to be. I think it was just going to be a list of exclusions, like the early bird catches the worm unless it's a type of bird that isn't interested in that particular worm or isn't bothered about catching it first, or is wise and smart enough to just like check out what the other birds are doing before it pursues any worms. And there's probably a bunch of other stuff, but I can't bring it all together in one thought right now.
Yeah, and we haven't even spoken about cuckoos yet, which is like a whole other thing. Bloody hell! Like taking a basically what cuckoos do is they wait until the mum and dad birds are off doing something else and their eggs are alone, and then they will lay their own egg in the nest so that those other birds will take care of it, raise it, make sure it's warm, make sure it's cozy, and then when they hatch, the baby cuckoo pushes all of the other guys out of the nest so that he can have all the food, all of the worms, by the way, that are brought back to the nest.
I mean, that is nature. Honestly, nature, man, nature. That is incredible. But actually, as I keep reminding myself time and time again, humans are, even though we like to think we're not, just a part of nature. And so, like, I know there's different species of birds, and humans are one species, but like, I feel like my main takeaway from this conversation is that there is so much diversity in the animal kingdom that we should better appreciate in diversity of human mind and approach and interest and all of that, all of the above.
Oh, that's beautiful. I thought you were going to go down the route of we need to be more choosy with our metaphors and actually be more specific about what kind of bird and what kind of worms we're talking about. But I like yours
Well,
better.
I mean, we could, but we'd be hit like we could. I think we could spend the next. We think we could spend the rest of our lives unpicking this metaphor in accordance with all of the different species of birds and what worms like. It's you got to draw the line somewhere, you know.
Yeah. See, the completer and finisher in me really wants to accept that as a challenge and reroute my entire life. just to,
This is
just to, oh my God.
this is what I love about us as a combination, though, because we're like I feel like we get each other on such a wavelength, but the things that we are different in, we are just so different in the best way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I feel like we, no pun intended, do egg each other on
Stop it.
in the best way.
Okay, I've just suddenly
Yeah.
become conscious that, like, because I've got my headphones on, I think I am shouting, and my windows are open, and my neighbours are probably like, what is this person?" Anyway, not that I mind too much, but
Well, I mean, yeah, that could be the general listening experience, and you know what? I'm okay with that.
me too. I've had a great time.
Me too. This has been wonderful.
I really wanted to make a pun, but I just can't. I can't enforce it.
Is it because you feel a bit overshadowed by my egg one?
Yeah, yeah. What's the point now? We might as well just finish the pod here. We've peaked. We've peaked at wordplay with your egg
Yeah,
pun.
that's it. One episode ever. Oh God. All right. Well,
Right.
I'm looking forward to continuing this next week.
Me too. More wordplay. More playing with words.
What are we tackling next week? Should we decide now?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Right. Okay, here's what we should do. We should both look at the list, and then I'll
Yep.
count three, two, one, and we'll both say one, and we'll see if it's the same one.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. 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 You ready?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Three, two, one. Out of the
Penny
woods.
thoughts.
They're both good though. They're both good.
They're both really good. Okay, so we'll talk about either Out of the Woods or A Penny for Your Thoughts, and you'll just have to listen and find out.
Yeah. Tune in next week to see where we landed on that.
Woo!
Okay. Bye. Let's hear some fact check Google from George over in the editing room.
So, editing George here, and I have done my Googling due diligence. And I found some very reliable sources when it comes to my random thought about earthworms. So, first up, we have a article published in Volume 5 of Soil Security. in December 2021. The headline is Estimated Decline in Global Earthworm Population Size Caused by Pesticide Residue in Soil. And basically they're talking about how earthworms are among the most important actors in making soil healthy because they facilitate nutrient turnover, improve aeration, facilitate water infiltration into the root zone, and control soil-borne diseases. However, earthworms have been shown to be affected by the presence of pesticide residue. Now, in January 2023, this was followed up by the Re-Soil Foundation, who wrote an article on missing invertebrates. The UK has already lost a third of its earthworms. It goes on to say how in the United Kingdom, a study by the British Trust for Ornithology, brackets BTO, the abundance of earthworms in the soil declined by 33 to 41%. Poor agricultural practices are a crucial determinant. So, doubling down on that pesticide. And then in April 2024, The Guardian reported, their headline was Vital for Looking After the Soil. Fears as UK earthworm population declines. Basically, the same thing, I'm not gonna go on and on and on about it. But this is based on a study in 2019 where 15,000 children from primary schools across the UK, a bit after Rachel's time as a primary school teacher, but went out to their local playing field, and instead of kicking a ball around, they dug up worms, looked out for birds, and counted everything. So, earthworms, they are decreasing. Sucks to be birds.
Wow. And I'm going to say one last thing. We can always cut this out. And I say this with love and respect. But I only tuned into the last part of that because I panicked that we were overriding what we'd already recorded and I had to check it. So I will listen to the pod
to find out whether earthworms are actually declining.
Episode's over, but you don't want to miss the outro. Thanks for spiraling through another metaphor with us.
If you like this episode, tell your mates, leave us a review, or shout a saying at us online.
You can find me, Rach, over on YouTube at Rach Does YouTube.
And you can find me, George, watching Rachel's videos over on YouTube, but also on Instagram at makinga.fuss.